When Anna plugged her husband's tablet in to charge that morning, she only wanted to finish making breakfast. But the screen flashed, and her eyes involuntarily dropped to it. Reading the message, she froze, unable to move a muscle. Before we begin, let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from today. We hope you enjoy today's story. The buttermilk pancakes sizzled in the cast iron skillet, and Anna carefully flipped each one with her spatula, checking the underside. The crust was an even, golden brown, exactly how Ryan liked them. Early on in their lives together, he had mentioned that his mother's pancakes were always either gooey on the inside or tough as shoe leather, and that if Anna was going to make them, she should do it right. And she genuinely tried to do it right. In the French press, a rich layer of coffee grounds steeped, and Anna managed to press the plunger down at the exact second the dark liquid threatened to spill over the glass rim. The aroma of roasted coffee mixed with the sweet scent of vanilla and buttermilk. And in the kitchen, for the first time that morning, it was truly peaceful. From the nursery down the hall, a soft, steady breathing drifted out. 4-month-old Liam was sleeping on his side, his tiny fist tucked under his cheek. Over these past few months, Anna had learned his breathing patterns by heart. When her son was about to wake up, his breaths became deeper and more irregular, as if his little body hadn't quite decided if it was ready to face the day. Right now, the rhythm was smooth and calm. It gave her room to breathe, too. Room to finish cooking, pour her husband a cup of coffee, sit across from him, and finally have a calm conversation. That was exactly what Anna had planned. Calmly, without accusations, without resentment, without tears, like two adults who shared a newborn and a life together. She pulled 2 plates from the cabinet, the large one with the blue rim for Ryan, the smaller one for herself. She plated the pancakes carefully, adding a dollop of butter and a spoonful of homemade strawberry preserves her mother had canned the previous summer. Her mom always had a stockpile of these mason jars, labeled with masking tape and a Sharpie. Strawberries, summer. When Anna was pregnant, her mother had brought over an entire grocery bag full of them, saying, "Vitamins, sweetie." She'd barely used any sugar. Anna had laughed at the time, pointing out that 3 spoonfuls of jam still had more sugar than a soda, but she kept the jars, and now she opened one almost every morning. A unique silence hung in the kitchen, the kind that only exists between 6 and 8 in the morning, before anyone in the condo building has left for work. The elevator was still asleep, and outside, the Seattle sky was only just beginning to lighten into a pale gray. Anna used to love this time of day before Liam was born, because she and her husband could have breakfast together. After the baby, she loved it because Liam usually slept, and she could just be herself. Not a mother, not a wife, not an exhausted woman, but simply Anna, a 32-year-old woman in a faded floral bathrobe, her hair tied up in a messy bun, holding a hot mug. She placed Ryan's mug in front of his usual seat. They used to have a tradition of eating breakfast together, sitting face to face. Ryan loved telling funny stories about work, his coworkers, or pointless corporate meetings. Anna would listen, laugh, and sometimes offer him another pancake. That tradition was gone now. Ryan usually ate standing up, staring at his phone, or he'd just say, "I'll grab something at the drive-thru," grab his Yeti tumbler, and leave. But today, Anna had decided it would be like the old days. At least, she would try. She straightened the dish towel hanging on the oven handle. It was new, white with embroidered wheat stalks. Her mother had gifted it to her the last time she visited from the suburbs. "You only have dreary gray rags, Anna," her mother had said. "Take this. Brighten up the kitchen a little." Anna had hung it up immediately, and it really did make the room feel a bit lighter. But it didn't fix the real issue. Their home felt cold. Not the temperature, but something else. She thought about it now, stirring a splash of milk into her coffee. She thought about it, while simultaneously trying not to think about it. Before their son was born, she was so sure that his arrival would fill the house with warmth. She and Ryan had tried for a baby for almost 3 years. At first, it just didn't happen. Then came the doctors, the endless tests. There was one heartbreak they never spoke of out loud again. And then, finally, she saw those 2 pink lines. Ryan didn't believe it at first. He asked her to take another test, then another. Then he ran down to the corner pharmacy, bought 5 more, and sat in the hallway waiting for her to come out of the bathroom. When she did, he sat right down on the hardwood floor by the front door and whispered, "Anna, is it really true?" She nodded. He pressed his forehead against her still flat stomach and cried. Ryan never cried. He joked later that her pregnancy hormones must be airborne. They went to every ultrasound together. Every single one. Ryan would hold her hand, staring at the monitor like he was witnessing a miracle, and the whole drive home he'd repeat, "Did you see the heartbeat?" "I saw the heartbeat." Picking a name took time. Ryan wanted Anthony, after his grandfather. Anna loved the name Liam. They playfully argued about it right up until delivery, but when Anna, hands still shaking with exhaustion, looked at that wrinkled, red little face and said, "He's Liam." Ryan, standing beside her in blue scrubs and a ridiculous hairnet, nodded. His eyes were dazed and overwhelmingly happy, like a man who had finally reached the end of an agonizingly long journey. He whispered, "Anna, I promise you, our real life starts now, a life better than anyone else's." And a new life did start, just not the way she had imagined. Ryan lasted a week. Maybe a little more. At first, everything was perfect. He did diaper runs, bought baby formula, took photos of their sleeping son, and texted them to his mom with the caption, "Your grandson." But then came the nights. Liam woke up every 2 hours, sometimes more. Anna would get up, nurse him, change him, rock him back to sleep. Ryan got up with her at first, but then he stopped. She was the one who told him, "Go to sleep. You have work in the morning." But soon, he started waking up irritable anyway. He complained that he had brain fog and couldn't function at the office. Then he started sleeping in the guest room so at least one of us can get some rest. It sounded reasonable, but that reasonable distance kept growing, and Ryan's presence in her and Liam's life began to shrink. He started staying late at the office, an hour at first, then 2, then coming home long after their son was already asleep. He claimed he was buried under a massive new project, that his quarterly bonus depended on it. Anna believed him. Then he started grabbing drinks with his buddies after work, just Kyle and Dan, guys she had known for years. It bothered her, but she let it slide. Soon, though, the friends disappeared from his stories. All that was left were vague meetings and deflected questions. Anna found herself sitting in the dark kitchen at night, giving her son a bottle, staring out the window at the apartment complex across the street. In an identical illuminated window, she saw another woman, alone, holding a baby. The thought that there were probably thousands of lonely kitchens just like hers made her stomach drop. Ryan stopped touching her. At first, Anna thought it was normal. Postpartum recovery takes time. Her OB/GYN had said so. But the months dragged on, and he only pulled further away. If she placed a hand on his shoulder, he would flinch, almost instinctively, like he'd been burned. It wasn't intentional, which somehow made it hurt more. One night she said, "Ryan, I miss you." He replied, "I'm exhausted, Anna. I can't even breathe in this house." That was the first comment. More followed. "It's impossible to work here. It's impossible to relax here. It smells like sour milk." He never yelled. He said these things calmly, like he was commenting on the weather. And that casual cruelty was scarier than any screaming match. Then, Ryan acquired a strange, detached lightness, an energy he hadn't shown at home in a long time. He would come home late, but not exhausted. He looked energized. He smelled like a crisp, expensive cologne, definitely not his usual brand. He smiled at his phone. Once, she walked into the living room and found him on the sofa, staring at the screen, chuckling to himself. When he noticed her, the smile vanished like someone had flipped a switch. He placed the phone face down on the armrest. "Oh, you're up," he said, as if she were a stranger intruding in his house. He started taking his phone into the bathroom to text. That was the biggest red flag. Before, Ryan would text his mom or a coworker right in front of her. Now his phone would buzz in his pocket. He'd glance at the screen, say, "Hold on a second," and go to the bathroom. He'd run the faucet, come out 10 minutes later, looking composed and slightly distant, and wouldn't touch his phone for the rest of the night. Anna saw all of this. She wasn't naive, but every time she gaslit herself. "Wait, you just had a baby. Your hormones are a mess. Don't make things up. Men take longer to adjust to fatherhood. Give him time." But the adjustment never came. And today, she had decided she was done waiting. They were going to talk. No drama, no tears, No wild accusations. They would sit down as adults, face to face, and she would ask, "What is going on with you, Ryan? What is happening to us? Where do you go at night? Why don't you hold your son? Why do you look at me like I'm just a roommate?" She plated the last pancake, wiped her hands on the wheat stalk towel. From down the hall came a soft sound, Ryan stepping out of the bathroom. She could hear the clinking of hangers in the closet as he picked out a dress shirt. Anna glanced at the clock. 7:15. He wouldn't really start rushing to leave for another 20 minutes. That was when she saw the iPad. It was sitting on the corner of the dining table, pushed up against the wall where Ryan had set up a makeshift second home office. Sometimes he sat there at night with spreadsheets. The screen was dark, facing up, but a tiny red battery icon was blinking in the corner. It was almost dead. Anna looked at it the way you look at any household object and turned toward the fridge, but then she stopped. Ryan always got irritated when his electronics died when he actually needed them. "You saw it was on the red battery. How hard is it to just plug the charger in?" was his constant complaint. Anna used to snap back. "How am I supposed to know if you're using it?" They'd had stupid, exhausting arguments over it, the kind of petty bickering tired people use to cover up much deeper resentments. Not wanting to hear him complain later, she reached out. The charging cable was right there, plugged into the wall outlet near the baseboard. Anna grabbed the cord and picked up the tablet. The aluminum back was warm, as if it had been used very recently. She plugged it in. The iPad chimed softly. The screen lit up. It was locked. Just the standard passcode screen, the time at the top, but right below the clock, in the notification center, there was a single banner. Anna didn't read it carefully at first. She was already turning back to the stove when she caught the contact name out of the corner of her eye, Lauren Dock. Just that. No last name, just a first name and an abbreviation, like the person wasn't a human but a filing cabinet folder. The message preview was hidden, but for some reason, Anna froze. Her heart gave a sudden, uncomfortable lurch before her brain even understood why. Lauren could be anyone. A coworker, an accountant. Doc could mean documents, or a doctor Ryan had mentioned his back was acting up and he needed to see a specialist. Anna herself had told him, "Just go, don't put it off." It could easily be a doctor's office, but her hands were already going cold. Not out of terror yet, just that subtle, almost invisible intuition that women possess, though they rarely trust it until it's too late. She wanted to put the tablet down. Truly, she did. A voice in her head said, "Don't touch it. If there's something going on, it will come to light. Don't become the crazy wife who snoops." But in that exact moment, a memory from just a week ago surfaced. They had been sitting in the kitchen. Ryan was troubleshooting a software update on the iPad, cursing under his breath. Then he laughed and said, "All right, I'm setting a lucky passcode. If this doesn't fix it, nothing will." He typed in a 4-digit number, their son's birth, month, and day. At the time, Anna had felt a warm flutter in her chest. It felt like he was finally embracing the fact that they had a child. She remembered those numbers now. She knew them by heart. She wrote them on pediatric intake forms, on vaccine records, on health insurance claims. She typed the 4 digits. The screen unlocked. At first, she couldn't process what she was seeing. The iPad hadn't opened to the home screen. It opened directly to the Messages app. Ryan must have been texting early this morning and forgot to close the app before locking the screen. It was a long thread with Lauren Dock. No profile picture. The messages were stacked one after another, long and short. Anna's eyes didn't drop to the newest one first. They caught on a block of text in the middle. "I'm tired of being second. Even after the baby was born, you weren't happy. You said yourself the kid ruined your life. If you want to be with me, stop feeling sorry for her." Anna read the words, but her brain refused to translate them into English. It was like reading a foreign language. She read them again and again. The ticking of the wall clock suddenly sounded incredibly loud. Down the hall, in the nursery, Liam let out a soft sigh. He was probably rolling over in his sleep. Anna's ears locked onto that sound automatically because her baby's breath was infinitely more real than the glowing screen in her hands. Her son settled back into a steady rhythm, and Anna stood in the kitchen, in her faded floral robe, the hot cast-iron skillet at her back, holding her husband's iPad. reading a message from a woman who was tired of being second. Lauren wasn't an accountant. She wasn't a doctor. She was Ryan's mistress, a woman he had apparently found after Anna had given birth. After he had stood in blue scrubs in the delivery room promising her the world. After he had cried in the hallway. He had found someone else. And that someone was demanding he stop pitying his wife. The pancakes were getting cold on the plates. Anna's eyes slowly dragged down to the newest message, the one that had triggered the notification a minute ago. It was shorter, colder, written with a totally different, clinical tone. Results are in. You can pick it up today. Yes, DNA. The settlement is the key right now. Below it was an attachment. A photo of a document. Anna tapped the image. It expanded into a medical report. It had the letterhead of a local fertility clinic, a doctor's signature, Ryan's full name, and columns of lab results. Near the bottom, a highlighted sentence struck her like a physical blow. Severe impairment of reproductive function. Natural conception is virtually impossible. She read the sentence 3 times. 4. 5. Then she slowly raised her head and looked down the hallway toward the nursery. The door was cracked open just a few inches, exactly how Anna always left it at night, so she could hear Liam. Through the gap, she could see the edge of the white crib. And behind that railing, sleeping on his side with his fist under his cheek, was 4-month-old Liam. Her son. Hers and Ryan's. Dark eyelashes, Ryan's eyelashes. Long and slightly curled at the ends. She had noticed them in the maternity ward and told her mother-in-law, he's a miniature version of his dad. The dimple in his chin was Ryan's, too. When Liam smiled in his sleep, the dimple deepened in a way that was almost comically identical to her husband's. And now, Anna was looking at a medical report claiming that a son like this couldn't possibly belong to Ryan. Something inside her clicked. It didn't break. It didn't shatter. It just shifted, like a heavy mechanical lever locking into a new gear. If she had been a different woman, or if this were a different morning, maybe she would have collapsed onto the linoleum floor and sobbed. Maybe she would have doubted herself, spiraled into a panic of what if. But Anna had only ever carried one child, and she knew with absolute, unshakable certainty who the father was. She knew those eyelashes and that dimpled chin. Because of that, she didn't believe the medical report. She believed something else. Ryan and this Lauren woman were cooking up something vile. Before a real legal dispute, before court-ordered doctors, before a judge, Ryan was going to ambush Anna with a piece of paper claiming the baby wasn't his. He was going to use the shock, the shame, and the terror to manipulate her into signing away her rights. What exactly he wanted her to sign, she didn't know yet, but her gut told her it was a raw deal. Why else the rush? Before the DNA, the settlement is the key. Her hands strangely stopped shaking. In fact, they became incredibly steady. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her own iPhone, and rapidly took photos of the iPad screen. First, the message about being second. Then the text saying the baby ruined his life. Then the texts about the DNA and the settlement. Then the medical report. Then a close-up of the clinic's letterhead and the signature. She didn't breathe the entire time. When she finished, she exhaled, checked her camera roll to ensure the photos were sharp, and closed the Messages app. She carefully pressed the lock button on the iPad. The screen went black. Anna set the tablet down in the exact spot she'd found it, facing up, on the corner of the table. She left the charger plugged in. It had to look exactly like she had just done him a favor by charging it, without snooping, without reading, without knowing a thing. She turned back to the stove. The burner under the skillet was still on low. She had forgotten to turn it off. Anna twisted the knob. The flame died, and the kitchen descended back into absolute silence. In that silence, she heard footsteps in the hall. Ryan was walking toward the kitchen, moving with the slow, confident stride of a man who has everything under control. He smelled like that crisp, expensive cologne. His dress shirt collar was perfectly pressed, his hair still slightly damp from the shower. He looked put together, rested. Far too rested for a man who had spent the last week complaining that his own home was suffocating him. "Oh, you're up," he said, pausing in the doorway. His eyes swept over the table, the coffee mugs, the pancakes, and landed squarely on the iPad against the wall. For a fraction of a second, a tiny crease appeared between his eyebrows. If Anna didn't know what she knew now, she would have missed it. But she caught it. "Did you plug it in?" he asked. "Yeah, I did," Anna replied. Her voice was perfectly level. Even she was surprised by it. "Sit down. Your food's getting cold." He sat in his usual chair across from her, unfolded a paper napkin, and picked up his fork. He looked at her across the table, and in his eyes, she saw that familiar look from the past few months. A calm, slightly detached, almost polite attention. The look of a man thinking about somewhere else while eating someone else's food. Anna poured his coffee, sat across from him, and folded her hands on the table. "Are you going to be home tonight?" she asked. Ryan chewed, took a sip from his mug, and let his gaze drift to a point somewhere above her shoulder. "I don't know," he said. "I have an issue I need to handle." And in that second, Anna realized that he wouldn't be the only one handling an issue today. Ryan ate fast. He used to linger at the table. He used to tell jokes, ask for seconds, tell her she was the best cook in Seattle. Today, he inhaled 3 pancakes, pushed the plate away, wiped his mouth, and stood up. He finished his coffee standing by the sink, checked his Apple Watch, and said, "All right, I gotta hit the road." He grabbed his suit jacket from the back of a chair and slipped it on. At the front door, he turned back, his eyes darting once more toward the iPad on the table. Anna saw it in her peripheral vision as she gathered the dishes. She purposefully didn't look at him. She poured herself a little more coffee, acting as though nothing in the world mattered more than that mug. "Don't forget, I have to swing by my mom's place tonight," he said. "I might be late." "Got it," Anna replied. He stood in the doorway for another second, as if debating whether to add something, but he didn't. He pulled the door shut, a normal, everyday click of the latch. Anna listened to the deadbolt engage, heard him call the elevator, heard the hum of the car descending. Only then did she put her mug down. She set it down very carefully, because her hands had suddenly stopped being steady. In the nursery, Liam stirred. A soft, sleepy grumble. Not crying yet, just the warm-up. Anna stood up, wiped her hands on the wheat stalk towel, and walked to her son. Liam was lying on his back, waving his little fists in the air the way babies do when they want to be picked up. He saw his mother, broke into a wide, toothless grin, and the dimple in his chin deepened. Anna leaned down, scooped him up, and pressed him tightly against her shoulder. He was warm, a little heavy, and smelled like baby lotion and that unique, intoxicating scent of infancy. She stood there for a full minute, her eyes closed, breathing him in. Deeply. "Let's get you fed, little guy," she whispered. The day slipped onto its usual tracks. Anna moved through the condo on autopilot. Nursing, changing diapers, washing bottles, loading the sterilizer, doing a load of baby clothes, folding them on the living room sofa. Everything was identical to yesterday, the day before, and last week. Except, playing on a continuous, scratching loop in her head were 3 phrases: DNA. The settlement is the key. Tired of being second. She tried to push them away, but she couldn't. They echoed when she mixed the baby cereal. They echoed when she snapped a fresh onesie shut. They echoed when she watched Liam sleep in her arms, marveling at how his long eyelashes fluttered. She felt like she was moving underwater slowly, fighting invisible resistance. Her coffee grew ice cold. She only realized it when she took a sip and grimaced. She had left a small saucepan of water boiling on the stove to sanitize a pacifier and completely forgot about it. Thank God it hadn't boiled dry. There was an inch of water left. Anna turned off the burner and rested her forehead against the cool stainless steel of the range hood. She stayed like that for 10 seconds. It helped a little. The washing machine in the utility closet hit the spin cycle, roaring like a jet engine. Anna jumped, then let out a dry, humorless laugh at her own jumpiness. "My God!" Terrified of a Kenmore. Around noon, she put Liam in his stroller and took him out to the balcony. The glass panels could slide open, and Anna liked to let the crisp Pacific Northwest air in. Down below, in the building's courtyard, her neighbor from the 3rd floor, Mrs. Higgins, was walking her little white terrier. Mrs. Higgins looked up, saw Anna, and waved. Anna waved back. Liam, resting against her chest in his carrier, breathed peacefully warm, content, entirely unaware that this morning, his own father was orchestrating a lie that would legally erase his existence. And it was right then that Anna, for the first time all day, truly felt the rage vibrating inside her. It wasn't an explosive anger. It was a high-voltage wire humming under her skin. Cool on the outside, but touch it, and it would burn you to ash. She brought Liam inside, laid him in his crib, and turned on his mobile a spinning carousel of little bears playing a soft lullaby. Liam babbled happily at the bears. Anna quietly backed out of the room, closed the door to a crack, walked to the kitchen island, and pulled out her iPhone. She opened the photos. They were all still there. The medical report hadn't vanished. The texts were real. She hadn't lost her mind. She scrolled through her contacts and found Natalie. They had been best friends for 12 years, since their sophomore year at UW. Natalie was now a partner at a family law firm downtown. Anna still remembered how they used to joke about it. You picked family law? Sure. Nothing more fun than other people's messy divorces. Natalie used to shoot back. Wait till you see the billing rates. It's plenty of fun. Anna wasn't in the mood to joke today. She tapped call. Natalie picked up on the third ring. Hey babe, let me call you back in 15. I've got a client in the conference room. Is it an emergency? Anna wanted to say it wasn't. She was the kind of person who always downplayed her needs. But this time she heard her own voice say, It's an emergency, Nat. There was a split-second pause on the line. Give me 5 minutes. Natalie called back in 4. Her tone had completely shifted into her sharp, professional attorney voice. Talk to me. Anna laid it all out, as chronologically as she could. How Ryan changed after the baby. The late nights. The weird, energetic mood swings. The phone hidden in the bathroom. The iPad left charging. The lucky passcode. Lauren Doc. Tired of being second. The kid ruined my life. The DNA. The settlement. The medical report citing severe reproductive impairment. The baby's eyelashes and dimples. And how Ryan had looked at the tablet that morning. That fleeting moment of panic. Natalie listened in absolute silence. She only interrupted once. Did you take pictures? On my phone. Good. When Anna finished, the line went quiet for a solid minute. Then Natalie began speaking, slowly and clearly, the way a dispatcher talks to someone standing on the edge of a bridge. Anna, listen to me very carefully. I'm going to tell you a few things, and I need you to memorize them like your life depends on it. Because your son's life does. I'm listening. First, a medical report regarding infertility, even if it's 100% real, does not legally cancel paternity. Do you understand? Infertility is a medical probability. Paternity is a legal fact. Because you are married, he is legally the presumed father. That fact can only be overturned by a court-ordered DNA test. No clinic printout, no my sperm count is low, sob story holds any legal weight to disestablish paternity. That is rule number 1. Understood. Second, if he is going to ambush you with this report and try to drag you into a quickie settlement agreement before doing a real DNA test, it means he needs the lie to work. He needs you to be terrified and ashamed before the truth comes out. This is crucial, Anna. A man who wants the truth files a motion for a paternity test. A man who wants to rob you blind asks you to sign a paper in secret. Got it? Got it. Third, and listen to me on this one, you do not sign anything. No separation agreements. No, let's resolve this quietly. No, let's keep this from our parents. No, think of the baby. Not a single signature, Anna. Even if he cries, even if he brings you a dozen roses, even if he begs. Do not sign a damn thing without me present. Are we clear? Clear. Fourth, do not go running to a drugstore for a DNA kit. Do not schedule a private test just to satisfy your own anxiety. We will do everything officially, through the court system, so the chain of custody is bulletproof. For now, you confirm nothing and you deny nothing. You just live your life and take care of your son. Okay? Okay. And fifth, do not let him know that you know. Do not throw a plate at his head. Do not smash the iPad. Do not text this Lauren woman. Do not call her. I am dead serious, Anna. If he didn't realize you read those messages, that is your ace in the hole. Let him think you're clueless. He'll act cocky. And cocky men always leave a paper trail. Are you with me? I'm with you. Anna was sitting at the kitchen island, her shoulder numb from pinning the phone to her ear. With her free hand, she was mechanically sweeping the morning's pancake crumbs into a little pile on the counter. Listening to Natalie, She felt the sheer terror of the morning begin to recede, replaced by a cold, calculating calm. Not because everything was okay, but because the nightmare now had a name, a protocol, and a gladiator ready to fight it. "Send me the screenshots right now," Natalie ordered. Sending them. "One more thing. If he comes at you tonight with his little speech, and he probably will, since he has an issue to handle, you listen closely. Let him talk. Memorize what he asks for. Better yet, turn on the voice memos app on your phone and slip it into your pocket. Washington is a two-party consent state for recording, but right now, I just want to hear how he's framing this threat. We'll figure out admissibility later. Just keep the phone in your pocket." "Okay, you did everything right today, Anna. You hear me? Everything." Anna whispered a thank you, hung up, and set the phone face down. She sat there for a minute. Then another. She stood up, carried her cold coffee mug to the sink, and turned on the tap. The water rushed over the ceramic. With that rushing sound, her chest finally loosened. The day marched on. But now, instead of a scratched record playing 3 terrifying sentences, Anna had a checklist in her head. Sign nothing, show nothing, record everything. It was a simple list, and in that simplicity, she found her footing. She fed Liam, put him down for an afternoon nap, and took him for a stroll around the block. Mrs. Higgins was already inside. On a park bench, 2 older women were debating the rising cost of groceries at Whole Foods. Anna walked past them, giving a polite smile. They smiled back. The world was spinning just like it had this morning. It was a bizarre sensation. Your house is burning down from the inside, but to the rest of the world, it's just a mild Tuesday. Back home, she tidied up, folded the baby clothes, and heated up a can of chicken noodle soup for herself. She ate standing by the stove because sitting still made her skin crawl. She kept checking the clock. Ryan had promised to be late. That late hovered over the apartment like a storm cloud. Around 7, her mother called. Anna let it go to voicemail. "Not tonight, Mom." She would tell her mother everything eventually, but not today. Her mom would panic, cry, and immediately start packing a suitcase to drive over. Anna couldn't comfort someone else right now. She needed absolute focus. At 8:30, Liam went down for the night. That bought her at least 3 hours. Anna sat in the living room armchair, pulled a throw blanket over her legs, and waited. She turned the TV on and muted the volume, just to have some light and movement in the room. A late-night talk show played silently on the screen. At 10 minutes to 10, the deadbolt clicked. Ryan stepped into the entryway, and Anna instantly knew his demeanor had shifted. This morning, he was rushed and polished. Tonight, he radiated a tense, deliberate energy. The energy of a man walking into a room with a loaded gun in his pocket. "Hey," he said. "Hey, the baby's asleep." There was the rustling of cellophane from the hallway. Anna leaned forward slightly and saw Ryan walk into the living room holding a bouquet. White chrysanthemums, cheap grocery store greenery. Wrapped in clear plastic with a generic ribbon. He hadn't bought her flowers in 8, maybe 9 months. Not since Mother's Day, at least. He walked over and extended the bouquet. Anna took it. The flowers smelled sharp and heavily refrigerated. They had clearly just come out of a supermarket floral cooler. She rested them on her lap, holding them against her chest, and looked up at her husband. Ryan met her eyes for a fleeting second, then looked away. He walked past her to the nursery door, cracked it open, and peeked inside. Liam let out a loud, sleepy sigh. Ryan didn't step inside. He didn't bend over the crib. He didn't adjust the blanket. He just stared for 5 seconds, quietly closed the door, and walked back to the living room. "Sit down, Anna," he said. "We need to talk." He sat on the sofa opposite her armchair. He placed a dark leather pad folio on his knees. It looked brand new. Anna had never seen it before. He unzipped it. A stack of crisp papers shifted inside. In that exact second, without taking her eyes off the pad folio, Anna slipped her right hand into the pocket of her flannel robe. Her fingers found her iPhone, warm against her leg. She pressed the red record button on the voice memos app. Ryan opened the pad folio. His movements were slightly clumsy. One of the papers almost slid off his lap. He caught it, tapped the stack to straighten the edges, and pressed his palm flat against it, as if trying to physically hold down whatever he was about to unleash. Anna watched him in silence. The cheap chrysanthemums lay on the blanket in her lap. She didn't move them. She didn't have the energy. They smelled like a refrigerated aisle. And for some reason, that sterile scent made her throat tighten. Anna, Ryan began, his voice practiced and low. Please don't freak out. I just need you to listen to me. I'm listening. He rubbed his face, sighed heavily, and paused the exact dramatic pause people take when they've rehearsed a monologue and are deciding which opening line to use. I know how this is going to sound, he said. And I know well, you just had a baby. It's hard for you right now. Your hormones are all over the place. I get it. That's why I need you to listen calmly, like rational adults. Anna said nothing. Beneath the plastic wrapping, her fingers squeezed the thick stem of a chrysanthemum. Her thumb found a small thorn on a leaf, and she pressed down on it, focusing entirely on that tiny, sharp pain. Ryan pulled the top sheet of paper from the padfolio and placed it on the coffee table between them, turning it so it faced her. It was the medical report. Anna recognized the clinic's logo, the doctor's signature, the columns of text. Only now, the paper looked crisp and real, as if he had printed it at the office that very afternoon. I went to a specialist, he said. I've been meaning to go for a while. You know my back has been acting up. Anyway, they ran some blood work and they found some serious issues. It's all right there. You can read it. I'm not going to play games with you, Anna. I'll just give it to you straight. According to these labs, natural conception for me is virtually impossible. He stopped talking and stared at her, waiting for the explosion. Anna slowly lowered her eyes to the paper. She looked at the highlighted sentence she already had memorized. Severe impairment of reproductive function. Natural conception is virtually impossible. She stared at it as if reading it for the first time, then slowly lifted her gaze back to his. And? She asked. Her voice was flat, slightly raspy. How do you mean, and? Ryan leaned forward, incredulous. Anna, do you understand what this means? You tell me. He rubbed his face again and licked his lips. It means I can't be certain Liam is my son. I'm not saying I'm blaming you. Look at me. I'm not accusing you of anything malicious. Maybe something happened. Maybe it was a mistake. I don't know. Maybe you didn't even know. But facts are facts. I have these lab results, and having a kid with these numbers is a massive medical improbability. Anna stared at him. She didn't see her husband anymore. She saw a man delivering a thoroughly rehearsed pitch. She knew it because his pauses landed on perfectly calculated beats. She knew it because he said, I'm not accusing you with the exact inflection designed to make it feel like an accusation. She knew it because his left hand was still pressing firmly on the padfolio, holding down whatever came next. Ryan, she said evenly. If you have doubts, let's just do a DNA test. His face contorted. It lasted a fraction of a second, a shadow ripping across his features. Then he smoothed it out. Look, he said, holding up a hand. I asked you to stay calm. And you're already jumping to DNA tests and lawsuits and drama. I didn't say lawsuit, I said a DNA test. Anna, use your head. If we start demanding official paternity tests, you know how this works. It gets filed in family court. It becomes public record. Your parents will find out. My mom will find out. People at my firm will know. People at your job will know when your maternity leave ends. Do you really want everyone in Seattle whispering about who the real father of your baby is? I had a baby with you. The paper says otherwise. The paper didn't give birth, Ryan. He went quiet, leaned back against the sofa, looked up at the ceiling, and then back at her. Anna, I'm not trying to ruin your life. That's not why I'm here. I'm offering a clean, dignified way out for both of us. So we can just move on quietly. He pulled a second document from the padfolio and laid it on top of the medical report. It was a separation agreement. Anna saw the dense legal paragraphs, the bullet points, the empty signature lines at the bottom. Look at this, he said, tapping the page. It's more than fair. I keep the condo, obviously, since my salary pays the mortgage. You know that. I keep the SUV. It's in my name anyway. But I know things are tight for you, so I'm giving you a lump sum. See? Right here. Enough for you to get a deposit on an apartment and get back on your feet. And what about child support? Well, there's a specific clause for that. We'll revisit the child support issue after we establish biological paternity. If he's mine, I pay. If he's not, Well, you understand. Anna stared at the contract. But for some reason, the letters blurred, and all she could focus on was the vein pulsing in Ryan's neck. It was throbbing rapidly, rhythmically, like a metronome clicking at double speed. Tick, tick, tick. He was terrified. The main thing is, we keep this quiet, he urged, his voice softening into a fake sympathy. It's just a contract. We go to a notary, we sign it, we file it, and it's done. Nobody ever knows. No messy court battles. No dragging our names through the mud. No lawyers. Until he choked on the word. He blinked hard, catching himself. Until we get our own mediator. I won't even bring my lawyer into it if you just agree to handle this maturely. We settle this between us. Lauren. He had almost said Lauren. Anna heard it loud and clear, but her face remained a mask of stone. She pressed her thumb harder into the chrysanthemum thorn. And if I refuse to sign? She asked. Then it's going to be a bloodbath, Anna. Subpoenas, depositions, discovery. Your parents will be dragged in. My mom will be dragged in. Everyone will know your business. Do you really want to put yourself through that? With an infant? With no income and nowhere to live? Ryan, she said softly. Why are you saying these things? What is this? Threatening me with my parents, with my job, with being homeless? Are you negotiating with me, or are you trying to terrorize me? He stared at her for a long time. Then, dropping the fake nice tone entirely, his voice went cold. I'm trying to help you. Then let's do the DNA test. Just a simple swab. Before we sign anything. I don't understand why you are clinging to this delusion, he snapped, losing his cool. And I don't understand why you're being so stubborn. Ryan stood up, paced over to the window, and paced back. He sat down heavily. Fine, he said, holding up his hands in mock surrender. I'm not forcing you to decide tonight. Don't sign it today. Think about it. Take the weekend. But I am begging you, do not drag anyone else into this. No lawyers, no calling your mom. This stays between us. Deal? Anna slowly lifted the bouquet off her lap and placed it on the armrest of the chair. The chrysanthemums slid inside their plastic sleeve. I am not signing a single page of that without my attorney, she said. Period. Ryan slammed the padfolio shut. The loud crack made Anna flinch. For the first time that night, his meticulously crafted composure completely shattered. An ugly red flush crept up his neck. So you want a war? He hissed. No, Anna replied calmly. I just decided not to hand over my entire life over a piece of paper your mistress printed out. The living room fell violently silent. It was so quiet Anna could hear the kitchen faucet dripping down the hall. Ryan turned paper white. It was instantaneous, like a flash of lightning, but she saw the absolute devastation in his eyes. The vein in his neck froze. His lower lip parted slightly. It was the look of a man who realized, entirely too late, that he had walked into a trap. A second later, his defenses rushed back into place, but the damage was done. What the hell are you talking about? He stammered. What, mistress? Are you insane? Anna, you have postpartum depression. You need a psychiatrist. Great. And you can go to the notary by yourself. Because I'm not showing up without my lawyer. He stood up so fast the sofa creaked. He snatched the padfolio off the table. He didn't even look at the grocery store flowers on the armrest. He stormed down the hallway. A second later, the bathroom door slammed shut. The lock clicked. The sink faucet turned on full blast. Over the rushing water, Anna heard his muffled, frantic voice. She couldn't make out the exact words, but she knew exactly who he was calling. She stood up from the armchair, walked quietly down the hall, and stopped 3 feet from the bathroom door. She held her breath and listened. I don't know, I swear I didn't say anything. She just figured it out. No, we can't do the DNA. You know that. The whole thing falls apart. We have to move faster. I'll get her to the mediator's office tomorrow and force her hand. Anna stepped back, walked silently to the living room, sat back in her chair, pulled the blanket up, and took her iPhone out of her pocket. The voice memos app was still running, the audio waveforms jumping across the screen. She hit stop, saved the file as Ryan confession, and locked her phone. The next morning, Ryan left the condo before sunrise. No breakfast, no talking. He just tossed a comment over his shoulder as he walked out the door. "I'll text you the address for the mediator." The second the deadbolt engaged, Anna called Natalie. 2 hours later, Natalie was sitting at Anna's kitchen island, dressed in a sharp black suit, her legal notepad open, wearing the wire-rimmed glasses Anna had always liked since college. In front of her sat Ryan's padfolio. Anna had quietly taken photos of the documents while Ryan was sleeping on the sofa, and printed them out that morning. Natalie read through the pages in silence for 10 minutes. Then she took off her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose. "Okay, Anna, listen up. First, this condo was purchased after you were married. It is community property in Washington state. Furthermore, the down payment came directly from your grandmother's trust fund. We will trace those funds. The apartment is safe. That's point 1. Okay. Point 2. Liam was born during the marriage. Under state law, Ryan is legally presumed to be the father. No clinical lab report, even if God himself signed it, overrides that presumption. Only a court order can. Understood. Point 3. This medical report is raising massive red flags for me. The NPI number at the top is formatted wrong. The letterhead is outdated. This clinic merged with a larger hospital network 3 years ago. They don't use this logo anymore. And the doctor's signature is just a scrawl with no credentials attached. I'm going to subpoena this clinic's records today. If they didn't issue this to Ryan, this is an entirely different ballgame. This is felony forgery. Do you think Lauren made it? I'm not assuming anything yet. I'm sending the subpoena. We'll talk when the hospital responds." Natalie snapped the padfolio shut. Fourth, and most important, do not do a private 2, 3andMe or drugstore swab. We file for a court-ordered paternity test immediately. We control the narrative. Are you listening? I'm listening. And whatever you do when you go to this mediator, you sign nothing. I'll be right there with you. Anna nodded. Ryan texted the following evening. His tone was artificially light, trying to sound cooperative. "Hey, I set up a meeting for 10 a.m. tomorrow at a mediator's office downtown. We're just going to sit and discuss options. No pressure to sign if you aren't ready. Just a conversation." "Okay," Anna texted back. "I'll be there." The next morning, Anna walked into the downtown office building with Natalie by her side. They arrived 15 minutes early, intentionally, to scope out the room. It was a standard, sterile corporate building. The mediator's suite was on the second floor. Natalie insisted they take the stairs, not the elevator. As they walked down the carpeted hallway toward the glass door of the suite, they saw Ryan. He wasn't alone. Standing next to him was a woman in her early 30s, wearing a beige trench coat buttoned to the neck, sensible heels, and a leather tote bag. She was staring at her phone, pretending to be engrossed in an email, but Anna noticed immediately. Every 2 seconds, her eyes flicked up to check Ryan's face. Ryan stood slightly angled away from her. They weren't speaking, but the invisible tether of panic between them was palpable. Ryan looked up, saw Anna, and stepped forward, plastering on a stiff smile. "Hey. Glad you came. Let's head in. We're just gonna keep this low-key." Then his eyes shifted and landed on Natalie. The smile dropped. "This is my attorney," Anna said flatly. Ryan's mouth opened, then snapped shut. He shot a frantic, terrifying glance at the woman in the beige coat. She looked up from her phone. Anna took a step toward her. The woman looked up, and in that second, her face was an open book of sheer panic. "Lauren," Anna said quietly. The woman went pale. She didn't respond to Anna. Instead, she looked wildly at Ryan, desperate for a cue. Ryan stepped between them quickly. She's a paralegal colleague from my firm. I asked her to come along just to make sure the paperwork was drafted properly." Natalie didn't miss a beat. She calmly unsnapped her leather briefcase, pulled out 3 8x10 glossy printouts of the iPad screenshots, and laid them neatly on the hallway credenza, right in front of Ryan and Lauren. "Right," Natalie said, her voice dripping with venomous corporate politeness. "So perhaps your paralegal colleague can explain why she was advising you, in writing, to force my client into a settlement before a DNA test could be conducted. Is that a new standard practice in family law?" Lauren stared at the glossy photos. She saw her own contact name. She saw her own texts. I'm tired of being second. The DNA. The settlement is the key. A deep, ugly flush crept up Lauren's neck. She whipped around to face Ryan. You said she didn't know anything, she hissed. You said she was terrified of the scandal and would sign it to save face. You lied to me, Ryan. You're the one who wanted out. You're the one who said the baby ruined your life. I didn't invent that. Her voice was echoing down the hallway, escalating into a shout. The glass door to the mediator's office cracked open, and a young receptionist peeked out, eyes wide, before hastily retreating. A moment later, the mediator herself, a stern woman in her 50s wearing a sharp blazer, stepped out. She took one look at the scene. Ryan sweating profusely, Lauren hyperventilating, the printouts on the credenza, the lawyer with the briefcase, and Anna leaning calmly against the wall. There will be no mediation happening today, the woman said sharply. I do not facilitate agreements under duress, nor do I tolerate screaming in my hallway. Take this outside, please. Ryan tried to stammer an excuse. The mediator held up a hand and shut her glass door. Lauren didn't even look back. She turned on her heel and bolted for the stairwell. The frantic clacking of her heels echoed down the concrete steps. Ryan chased Anna as she walked out of the building, grabbing the sleeve of her coat on the sidewalk. Anna, listen to me. It was her. She got in my head. I wasn't thinking straight. After Liam was born, I didn't know what I was doing. She manipulated me. Anna stopped. She gently but firmly pried his fingers off her coat. Ryan, she said, looking him dead in the eye. You weren't out of your mind. You were in complete control when you slept with your mistress. You were in control when you forged a medical record. You were in control when you printed that contract. And you were in control when you booked that office. You didn't want the truth. You just wanted to silence me before it caught up to you. She turned and walked to Natalie's Lexus, parked at the meter. Behind her, Ryan was still pleading, but Anna had stopped listening. Natalie filed the divorce petition the following Monday. She was merciless. She laid out the division of assets, full primary custody for Anna, and maximum child support based on Ryan's income. When Ryan was served, his first call was to his mother. Susan called Anna 30 minutes later, sobbing into the receiver, begging her to realize they were making a rash decision and needed to think of the baby. Anna listened patiently, didn't explain a single detail, and simply said, Susan, ask your son about the fertility clinic report, and ask him about Lauren, then we can talk. Her mother-in-law went dead silent and never called back. Ryan behaved exactly as Natalie predicted. First, he threatened to fight the paternity test all the way to the state Supreme Court. Then he tried to drag out discovery, hiding bank statements and asking for continuances, claiming health issues. Then, suddenly, he flipped the script and tried to play the victim. He started sending Anna long, rambling emails in the middle of the night, claiming she didn't understand his pain, that he had a heart too, and that she was destroying their family over baseless paranoia. Anna never replied. She forwarded every single email to Natalie. Evidence, Natalie said cheerfully. Keep letting him dig his own grave. The court-ordered DNA test was scheduled 6 weeks later. Anna brought Liam to the designated county lab on a Tuesday morning. Ryan was already there in the waiting room, looking haggard and unshaven, wearing a wrinkled Patagonia fleece she'd never seen before. He didn't say hello. The buccal swab took 10 minutes. Liam didn't even cry. He just stared curiously at the nurse holding the long Q-tip, then flashed a gummy smile. Ryan caught a glimpse of that smile, flinched, and practically ran out of the room. Those 3 weeks waiting for the results felt like an endless gray fog. Anna nursed Liam, pushed his stroller through the park, ate soup standing up, and slept when the baby slept. Her mother flew in from out of state and stayed for a week. She scrubbed the baseboards, did mountains of laundry, and didn't ask a single prying question. Only once, late at night while washing dishes, did she stroke Anna's hair like she was a little girl and say, "You're made of iron, sweetie. I don't think I could have survived this." That was the first time Anna finally broke down. She cried into her mother's shoulder for 5 solid minutes. Then she wiped her face, blew her nose, and went to feed her son. The results came on a Wednesday afternoon. Natalie called her directly. Her voice had that specific tone lawyers use when they're trying desperately to remain professional while holding a royal flush. "Are you sitting down?" Natalie asked. "I'm standing." "Sit," Anna sat on a stool by the kitchen island. Probability of paternity: 99.9%. Liam is his biological son. It's a lock, Anna. Anna held the phone to her ear, staring blankly at her own hands on the granite countertop. She didn't feel triumphant. She didn't feel vindicated. All she felt was a crushing, overwhelming exhaustion and a deep, bitter sorrow. Because the man who had named this baby, the man who had cried tears of joy over a positive pregnancy test, the man who had promised her the world in the delivery room, had been willing to use his own flesh and blood as a bargaining chip in a dirty legal scam. And no DNA percentage could ever erase that. Thank you, Nat. Hold on, I'm not done, Natalie said. Remember that subpoena I sent to the fertility clinic? They responded. They never issued that report to Ryan. It's not their current letterhead. The doctor's signature is completely forged. It's felony falsification of medical records, Anna, and we have strong reason to believe Lauren produced it. Turns out, she used to work as an admin at a Quest Diagnostics lab 2 years ago. She had access to the templates. I'm submitting it all to the judge. Do it. Submit everything. The divorce finalized 2 months later. Ryan, backed into a corner by the overwhelming evidence, and his own lawyer, who undoubtedly warned him he was staring down the barrel of a fraud charge, suddenly became very agreeable. The late-night victim emails stopped. At the final hearing, he sat silently in a dark suit. The assets were split in Anna's favor. The condo was protected, acknowledging her grandmother's trust fund as separate property. Anna was awarded primary custody, and Ryan was ordered to pay the state maximum in child support. The only thing Ryan walked away with was his precious SUV. It was his only tiny victory. Lauren vanished before the ink on the divorce decree was dry. The second she realized that instead of a wealthy boyfriend with a downtown condo, she was about to be implicated in a federal fraud investigation, while dating a broke man paying massive child support, she bolted. Ryan mentioned to his lawyer during a deposition that she had moved back to her parents' house in Idaho. Anna heard that and realized, for the first time, that it didn't hurt. She felt absolutely nothing. Ryan tried to approach her one last time, a month after the judge signed the papers. It was late August. A warm breeze was rustling the early dry leaves on the pavement. Anna was walking Liam through the park. The baby was 9 months old now, sitting up in his stroller wearing a little Seattle Mariners baseball cap, very seriously watching a flock of pigeons. Ryan stepped out from a path near the playground, looking like he'd been waiting for her. He looked exhausted. No jacket, hands shoved in his pockets. Anna, can I just, a minute? Speak. I screwed up. I know I did. But you have to understand, I believed her. She fed me lies. After Liam was born, I felt like I didn't matter anymore. Like I was just a paycheck. I didn't know how to handle it. I wasn't in my right mind. Anna didn't look at him. She bent down and adjusted the brim of Liam's tiny hat. Liam reached up and grabbed her index finger with a surprisingly strong grip, his whole little hand wrapping around it. She stood back up. Ryan, she said softly, you weren't terrified that he wasn't yours. You were terrified that he was. Because if he was yours, it meant you had to step up and actually be a father, not just a guest in your own house. And you didn't want to be a father. Ryan stood frozen. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He closed it. He gave a slow, defeated nod, turned, and walked away down the path. He walked slowly, like a man who genuinely had nowhere left to go. Anna watched his back for exactly 1 second, then turned the stroller and pushed Liam toward the swings. Liam turned 1-year-old at the beginning of spring. The infamous Seattle rain had finally taken a break. The courtyard smelled like wet cedar, and the trees were bursting with bright green buds. Anna had set up a simple spread on the kitchen island. No massive Pinterest-perfect party. Just the people who mattered. Roast chicken, a big salad, and her mother's famous vanilla birthday cake with a single, slightly crooked white candle in the center. Liam immediately tried to grab the flaming wick, and Anna had to gently pull his hands away. Her mother was there. Natalie was there. She had become more of a sister than a friend over the past year. Anna's old college roommate had come with her husband and toddler. And Mrs. Higgins from the 3rd floor had brought her little white terrier, who was currently hiding under the table waiting for dropped crumbs. It was a small group, but the kitchen felt so incredibly full. Everyone was laughing, taking photos of the baby, Mrs. Higgins was telling a story about how her own son's first tooth came in so crooked they thought he'd look like a pirate for life. Anna's mom was cutting massive slices of cake for everyone. Liam was sitting in his high chair, wearing a crisp, new white button-down shirt. When Anna lit the candle again, he froze, staring at the flame with wide, dark eyes. His eyelashes were long, curling slightly at the ends, his father's eyelashes. The dimple in his chin deepened as he smiled at the glowing light. Anna leaned over and blew the candle out for him. Everyone clapped and cheered. Sitting on the counter, plugged into the charger next to the stove, was Anna's iPhone. The screen lit up. A notification banner dropped down. Anna reached over and picked it up. For a split second, just a microsecond, a ghost of a memory echoed in her chest. This was exactly how she had picked up that iPad in this very kitchen a year ago. The message was an automated email from the King County Superior Court e-filing system. Notice of entry of judgment. Case closed. Just dry, bureaucratic text. No congratulations, no fanfare. Anna read it, locked the screen, and set the phone face down on the counter. She looked up. In that exact moment, Liam reached out his chubby little hand toward her. It was smeared with vanilla frosting, warm, tiny, and so undeniably alive. Anna leaned down and scooped him up into her arms, burying her face in his neck. Once upon a time, an accidental text message on a charging tablet had nearly destroyed her life. But standing in her sunlit kitchen, holding her son, Anna knew the absolute truth. It hadn't destroyed her life. It had saved it. It had saved her from a man who wanted to turn motherhood into a liability, love into blackmail, and his own son into a bargaining chip. Ryan had thought a fake piece of paper would buy him his freedom, but the exact opposite happened. The truth was what had finally set her free.